Welcome to the Writer's Block. I'm Jenny Carlson here at the Oklahoman, and I'm joined by Cedric Golden from the Austin American-Statesman. Ced, you're looking sharp. You got the pocket square working, my friend.
Working the pocket square and got my Prince purple tie on. His Royal Badness, R.I.P. Still my guy, even if he is dead.
I'm telling you, things must be good down in Austin. You're feeling good, and I am too, but the NBA playoffs, at least as it relates to the local team here in Oklahoma City, it's over with. But, man, we're going to lead off today with the NBA playoffs because there's so much going on that people are talking about. Ced, clearly this Rockets-Warriors series has everybody's attention. So does Kevin Durant. What have you been impressed by as you've watched these two go at it?
He's on an all-time heater right now. He just doesn't seem to miss much. I know he was at one point, he's averaging 40 points a game in his last 5, and I think he had like 29 in this one, so he's still around 40 a game over the last series or so, and just unstoppable. Added the mid-range game, shot to his game over the summer to go with the three-pointers. He's making his free throws, going to the hole, just having an absolute monstrous playoff so far. And Golden State, it appears that the memories of the Los Angeles Clippers are well behind them. They're up 2-0 in the series going into Saturday night in Houston, Game 3. And I get the feeling that the Warriors are probably going to win one of those and be up 3-1 because Kevin Durant is an alpha male on the court. I don't know if he's an alpha male to lead a franchise to a win. That's for another conversation for Oklahomans. But as far as being on the same team with Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Draymond Green and Andre Iguodala, starting 5 All-Stars, that's going to be hard to beat. Arguably the greatest starting 5 in the history of the league.
Yeah, and it's interesting that in a year when Durant isn't anywhere close to the MVP discussion, he's asserting himself in these playoffs and making everybody sit up and say, hey, is this guy the best player on the planet right now? He's playing at that level. You even had Patrick Beverley, said you referenced that Clippers series. Patrick Beverley, after the series was over, basically saying, we tried everything, and he's just Kevin Durant. We can't do anything about it. And so he's playing great basketball. But, Cedric, I want to talk for a second about the way this officiating, refereeing cloud has come over these playoffs, because I don't know what you've seen, but I was watching, just had the TV on the other day during one of those mid-afternoon sports shows, and I happened to glance up, and they were doing a whole segment on Scott Foster, one of the NBA refs who reffed Game 2 of this series. This has become like its own sideshow to the whole thing, and yet it's sort of taken over the big top. Said this is not a good thing. When you have a guy like Kevin Durant playing at this level, playing against a guy that could win the MVP in James Harden, all these other series going on, and yet all we can talk about is the officiating.
And that's bad, and this series may go down as one that's going to be more about the officiating than the play, and that's unfortunate. I hope that it doesn't go into that realm. Got to remember, Scott Foster had to throw out DeMar DeRozan in the previous series, Denver and San Antonio, because he called DeMar DeRozan for a foul, and DeMar threw the ball at him.
Yeah.
So that's how much players are upset or frustrated with Scott Foster. Chris Paul famously said, I wish that guy wasn't reffing my games. I got a problem with this guy. So there's history, and you don't want to be known as the guy that's infused with players. You kind of want to be the unknown, anonymous ref that they go, oh, yeah, he's a good ref. You want to be that guy. Yeah. You don't want to be a ref that's being called out in the media. And it's the same as a football deep snapper. You never want your name in the paper. Yeah. If your name is in the paper as a deep snapper, you're probably not going to be a deep snapper for long.
No, that's true. Yeah, it's going to be interesting to see if the NBA takes any steps. I don't know if there's anything they can do as it's going on in the playoffs, but I have to think if this continues, if there's another dust-up like we saw in that first game of the Rockets-Warriors series that really became the story for days, if there's something else like that, you have to think in the offseason the NBA might be looking at what can we do? Is it, allowing officials more latitude to call technicals, to, possibly be ejecting guys more quickly in the regular season where you set a precedent and say, listen, we're not going to put up with anything. I just can't think the NBA is really excited about all these great games happening, and all that anybody wants to talk about is how the referees are not good, whether they are or not. People are always going to go with that. So it's just going to be fascinating to see how does this progress and what does the NBA do potentially after the season's over. All right, let's get on to segment 2. Let's go by the numbers this week. And Cedric, your number is $10,000. That's the amount of money that we are learning from this ongoing court case involving payments to players in college basketball. This is the amount that is alleged to have been paid by Arizona coach Sean Miller to Deandre Ayton every month. Cedric, what in the world is going on here?
You know what it makes me wonder, Jen? I wonder what the football players are making, man. If the basketball players are making 10 G's a month, then the football players must be really raking it in. I just couldn't believe that story when I read it. And you got assistants dropping dimes on head coaches. And this time, what's weird is it's not a bag man that's doing Sean Miller's bidding. Apparently, Sean Miller was cutting checks or delivering a bag of money to Deandre Ayton. That is a blockbuster story. And Sean Miller probably isn't the only coach that's doing it. He might be the only one who's dumb enough to not have a middleman, but I would be shocked if he didn't get the gate in Arizona. Let's keep it real. A lot of these schools are paying players to come play. I think there's a short list of schools that don't cheat. And those are probably the schools that aren't winning, frankly. So not saying Sean Miller should have done it, but I understand why he did it.
Boy, this is, speaking of clouds hanging over things, this is one of those things that doesn't seem to be going away for college basketball. And, obviously the college basketball world wants to focus on what's on the court. And right now, so much is happening in a courtroom. I'm not sure people are as fully focused on it, clearly not as the games. But Cedric, I think you're right. I mean, so many, we've seen everybody from Sean Miller to Will Wade at LSU. There's been a lot of fingers that have gone out in this thing, and you wonder, yes, it seems like a lot of places are being sort of caught up in this. So you think, well, maybe this is just happening to some degree everywhere. But you start to wonder, what are administrators, what are schools going to do? What's the NCAA going to do? Cedric, what can the NCAA do about this if they've got, let's say there's 25 basketball programs that are implicated with something like paying players to this level? Do they have enough people to go out and even figure out if any of this is happening? I don't know what the NCAA is going to do.
They have enough, but I'm going to tell you why they're probably going to be slow to the chase. The almighty dollar. Let's not overlook the fact that the NCAA is making billions upon billions of dollars off of NCAA basketball and NCAA football, particularly that tournament and those bowl games. So the corruption is the corruption. And if they're smart, it's a cash money business, Jen. And they're not writing checks like those idiots from SMU back in the 80s when we were little. I don't think they're cutting checks. I think they're delivering money. It's hard to trace cash, especially if people are not dropping dimes on you, unlike what's going on in Arizona. So I think the NCAA, if it was to do a full court press investigation on the corruption of paying athletes in football and basketball, that would probably go under the heading of be careful what you wish for. I don't know that they want to find this corruption, because what it's going to be doing is it's going to probably in the end cost them several million, maybe billions of dollars. The last thing the NCAA wants is for stars to not be able to come to their schools and play in their tournaments. And I know these head coaches are not looking forward to the day when the NBA reverses that freshman rule and allows these kids to go straight to the pros again. Because remember when that was going on, we missed out on guys like Kevin Durant and Kobe Bryant. I mean, not Kevin Durant, Kevin Garnett and Kobe Bryant. People like that went straight from high school, Dwight Howard, from high school to the pros. So the NCAA is better when they're having these great freshmen come into their game. and highlight their programs. Deandre Ayton was one of them. And so don't be shocked if the investigation is a little bit slow on the uptake.
Little hands off, if you will, for the NCAA. We'll see. It'll be interesting. Here's my number for our by the number, Cedric. It's 3,000. That's the career strikeouts mark that CC Sabathia, the great pitcher, recently hit. And I want to talk about him also because he's a guy, Cedric, who is not your typical build of a great athlete. I don't know if CC Sabathia is a Hall of Famer. I don't want to get into any of that, but he's a guy that I was reminded as the Nuggets are playing in the NBA playoffs, and you see Nikola Jokic out there with, that somebody keeps always reposting on social media the picture of him on his passport when he was the chubby kid, coming over to the U.S. These guys aren't your average cut athletes, and yet doing great stuff. I just wanted to give a shout out to some athletes that, are clearly skilled in what they do. I don't want to knock what either of those two guys are doing, but it doesn't always mean that you have to have the six-pack abs and be able to, lift 300 pounds. You can be a great athlete if you work hard at it, and body type doesn't matter. I was reminded of that with CC Sabathia.
I love it. And Nikolai Jokic is a guy. Remember Craig Stadler, the golfer, Refrigerator Perry. I like when the big guys get a little bit of love, Jay Carr. I'm in that fraternity. I'm calorically challenged, if you will. Now, I was sexy and hot when I was in my 20s and 30s, but those days are in the rear view. So when I see a CC Sabathia getting some love nationally, I kind of pat my chest a little bit and go, way to go, big boy. Keep it going for the big guys. We're watching. And this Jokic kid is amazing. He's not a great athlete. He's a great basketball player. He knows what he's doing, and he gets it done. So you don't have to be built like Karl Malone or Kobe or Michael Jordan to be great, or even Barry Bonds. Let's not get into that one about body type. But CC Sabathia shows that even a big dude with more than 20% body fat can make his mark on a high level. Congrats to CC.
Yeah, one of those things that I don't know if anybody would have necessarily said, here's a guy that's going to get 3,000 strikeouts, and you would have put the two together. But there you go. Always interesting. All right, let's go segment 3, Cedric. And this week we are talking about living their best life. And you are going to be talking about a guy that you've seen for a lot of years, and he just retired. That's Jamaal Charles. Did a one-day contract with the Chiefs. What a cool deal. He got to go into Kansas City and retire as a Chief.
All-time great for the Kansas City Chiefs. And news just came down this afternoon that his fellow Longhorn Derek Johnson, also a longtime member of the Chiefs, signed a one-day contract and is retiring. So those guys were great over this last decade in Kansas City on either side of the ball. The question is, Jamaal Charles, did he do enough to get into the Hall of Fame? He might have an outside chance. 5.4 yards a carry, Jenny, is tops all time in the NFL for running backs with a minimum of 750 carries. So Jamaal Charles was a touchdown waiting to happen. He had 7 touchdown carries of 50 yards or more during his illustrious career, 4 Pro Bowls, 2-time first team all NFL. And I saw him during his time at Texas. One game he ran for 130 or so yards in the fourth quarter against Nebraska and left early. And I talked to him about a month ago at a Texas basketball game, and we rode up in the elevator together. And I go, "Are you going to play again? Are you done?" And he goes, "I think I'm done. They've undervalued my position, and it's probably not worth me playing anymore." He still has some jets in those legs. Been a little bit injury prone. Had a couple of knee problems, which slowed him down a bit. But he's still a serviceable running back. But he's called it quits. What a great career. 56th all-time in rushing. And that's ahead of like 5 or 6 guys who are in the Hall of Fame. Yeah. Job well done.
Yeah, for sure. He'll definitely be in that discussion for Hall of Fame. And, I just thought it was cool to see the way the Chiefs treated him when he did that one day with them. They had all their staff come and sort of, give him a send-off, and really kind of a cool scene. Then he got to take a handoff from Pat Mahomes, who obviously he never played with. Patrick Mahomes just getting that first year under his belt a year ago with the Chiefs as the starter. But, to sort of have that symbolic moment, and I think Jamaal was out there in his suit coat and his dress shoes, and his son was out there with him. Just a lot of cool moments that I'm sure Jamaal Charles and his whole family will appreciate, not only in the moment, but years from now. I do want to, and talking about living their best life, I want to go the opposite, Cedric, with mine, and that's Vince Carter. Cedric, he's never going to retire. He's coming back. 22nd year in the NBA, Vince Carter. And you know what you said about Jamaal Charles, the fact that, he's had a lot of wear and tear. And, you would think that Vince Carter, a guy that really made his early years in basketball, whether it was college or the NBA, it was really about his physicality, his jumping ability. I mean, this guy isn't what he was then, obviously, but he's still doing it, Cedric. It's just unbelievable to me. It's not unbelievable that he's coming back, because I guess at this point I think, yeah, he's just going to play forever. But still, an amazing story, Vince Carter coming back to play in the NBA.
You know what? Dirk Nowitzki just retired, 21 seasons. Vince Carter's going to do him one better. It's been next year, it'll be 20 years since Vince Carter won the slam dunk contest.
Wow.
And he's going to still be playing basketball. That's amazing. 17.2 points a game for his career. He was Air Canada, and before he became Vinsanity. He's changed his game up, because you're not going to carry a 48-inch vertical into your 40s. So that's like shooting your age in golf. It's just hard to do. So he's still serviceable. He can still play. Jason Terry, I think, is still playing. Those guys are about the same age. I think Jet Terry's a little bit younger, but longevity is much easier nowadays because guys are staying in shape for 24/7, 365, 52 weeks a year. The nutrition is better. They're working out 4 or 5 days a week. So Vince Carter may be in his 40s, but he's probably got the body of a 32, 33-year-old guy, and that's allowing him to still be part of the NBA. I'll look at it this way. Why retire? I mean, I'm 10 years older than Vince Carter, and I plan on doing this for another 10 years. I would have hated for someone to come up to me in my 40s and tell me I needed to retire. So as long as you can produce, and as long as a team believes you're good enough to help them win games, why not? Shout out to Vince Carter, and for all the septuagenarians out there, we applaud you. I'm going to be old one day, and hopefully Vince Carter will still be playing. It's a tough gig. The NBA grind is tough.
Yeah.
The fact that he's able to do this at such an advanced age is great.
Yeah, it's one of those things that makes you wonder, you bring up a great point about the nutrition and just the way that these guys live now and train all the time and are really, always in that mindset of how do I stay healthier longer? How do I maximize what I have? Sort of makes me think, Vince Carter at year 22, what are we pointing towards? I don't think it's going to become the norm that we see guys playing 20 plus years, even though Dirk was at 21, now Vince at 22, but what's the ceiling? Is it 25 years potentially? Is it more that a guy could play in the league? I don't know what the answer is, but I'm fascinated to see how long Vince Carter goes, because he's still playing minutes that matter. He's not just a guy sitting at the end of the bench. He's not starting, but he's not been relegated to just being a locker room guy. So it's really amazing to see, any type of pro career, 1 year, 1 month, 1 week. I mean, that's impressive. It's such a high bar. But to be playing for 20 plus years, now into year 22, amazing stuff. All right, Sed, that's all the time we've got this week for the Writer's Block. Thanks for joining us, and we'll see you next week.